Hey guys, what's up? So welcome to video 7. So in this one, we are going to go ahead and start registering a user. So we'll be consuming this endpoint. We'll be working with the context API, of course. So yeah, so let's get started by setting up our registration form. So if you go to our semantic UI components, we are going to be using this form component. So I'm going to expand it here. And when you expand it, you can get actually a starter one. So I'm going to copy this form here. So we start with that. So if you go back to our project, we have the components, we have the containers. So this is going to be going to the layout. So here I'm going to create a file. So this is going to go in a folder called register. So the file is going to be called index.js. So actually you can have a JSX file. You can call it JSX, but we'll keep everything JS because it's quite similar. Nothing different really. So in here, we can have our form. So I'm gonna bootstrap, I'm gonna create a simple functional component. See, so this is gonna be register. I'm gonna call it register UI. So here we will have a form. So we can bring in the form. Let's import what is necessary. Let's get rid of this checkbox. It's not needed. But you can keep the button because you're going to need to submit the form. Okay, so let's take a look at what we have. So if we come back here and go to register, there's nothing, and that's because we are not rendering this. So if you go to our containers, then register, so we have an index.js file. So this one will not be returning this, but rather we return the UI. We return the UI component. So you can return this. Let's import it, and we're going to be giving it everything as props. So if you come here, you can see that we have the form, but it's pretty huge. So we need to actually make this one, we need to make it fit and look better. So going back to the layout, which is here. So we want to actually bring in our header so it can show on the top. So here I'm gonna have a div around everything. And we can have this form inside. So now let's bring in the header. So we called it header. Okay, we want the one we created. So what is it? Header. Called it header. So let's import it here. We are not importing it from semantic. So we want to import header. So it's gonna be going to app1 directory. Then it's gonna be going to app to components. Then it's gonna be header. Okay, so bring that in. So if you come back, you can see that we have it. So we actually don't want this to show. We actually don't want this to show when we are on pages that are not, the user is not authenticated. So we can easily check which page we are on, and we are going to implement access control later, but we can simply remove them for now. So we can actually do that. So if you go to our header, which is in components, header, so we can easily disable this when we are not on the slash route. So here, for us to know which route we are on, I'm going to create a variable here. So I'm going to destructure location. So this is going to be coming in from, equals use location. So when you're using React Router DOM, you get access to some hooks. So use location will give you the location. For example, here, if I do a console log for this, we should be able to now see in the console. So let's see console. Let's see, where is it? Oh, it's not. So I'm going to remove the destructuring. So we take a look at the location itself. So if we take a look, what is this? You can start, we have a path name, and the path name is auth/register. So we can now instead destructure this. So we can destructure the path name. So here we can check for the path name, and if the path name is not the index one, then we don't show these items. So you can actually do that. You can actually do this. So you can do something like not path name equals index, which is slash, and then show the menu, something like that. So I'm gonna do the same thing for the second item, which I think we can even wrap, but I'm gonna repeat it for now. Should be fine. Let's see, and menu. Okay, let's close this. Okay, so let's take a look, and they don't show. So now they don't show, but if we are on the home, where are they? Let me see. We close this. So they're actually not showing. Let's see path name, because this. Let's take a look at the log, so we make sure we are doing the correct thing. So the path name is slash. Okay, so we are doing path name. Oh, we are actually checking for a different, the reverse. So we want path name equals that, so it should only show when we are there. So now if you go to register, that would be auth register, shouldn't show. Good. So now here in our register layout, which would be here after the header, we are going to be using another component called grid. So this allows us to use the grid system. So now we can specify grid. Okay, so inside the grid we can have columns. So we can have a grid dot column. Okay, so this column here is the one that will contain our basically our form. So I'm going to have a simple header. So there is a component called header. So we can have header, and I realize that this is crashing with this one. So for us to use them differently, so here we can import header and add like a semantic header, and then we use this instead. I probably should have named that one differently. So here now we can have a header, so I can say something like sign up here. Okay, so after the header, now we can have a segment. So a segment basically allows us to have a different styling on the edges of the form. So I'm gonna move everything in the form. I'm gonna cut it out. Then I'm gonna be bringing it to here, bring in the form. But before we do that, I'm gonna bring in a segment. Okay, so that will do the setup. So if we take a look, you can see that these are pushed down here. And by the way, let me first make this thing in the center and actually make it smaller. So here on the column, you can add a simple style. This will be, let's see, so let's give it a max width. We can make this one like 550. Let's give it, let's give it some margin on the top. So we can do margin top. This can be 20, and if we take a look, you can set it is small. So if we want to push this one in the middle, we can come here on the grid and add a centered prop. So centered. So if we come back, you can see that it goes in the middle. So I think this is something we can work with. Let's go ahead and set up other UI inputs that we want. So we were going to need if we take a look at the API, we need the username, first name, last name, email, and password. So I'm going to change the way we are doing this. So here, actually, we can use another syntax. So we can do form.input, and here we can pass all these props. So we can pass like the first name as a placeholder. Then we can pass the label. So whatever works best for you, you can choose to use that. So we can pass a label, should be a string. We don't need this. Okay, so that looks, let's see, it should look the same. Let me save it. Oh, this shouldn't be here. It should just be form. Okay. So you see it looks the same. So depending on what works best for you, you can use a different syntax. So let's have the same thing for that will be first name. Let me have username on top. So username should be username. Okay, so let's have the last name for the email, for the password. Okay, so let's remove the last one. Okay, so let's edit it accordingly. So this should be last. So this should be password. No, this should be email. And we can specify type. So we can do type equals email. And that gives us some basic HTML5 validations. So this one is going to be for the password. So let's change it to password. So let's add a type to be password. So we get that hidden text as we enter them. So password. So if we come back, you can see that the form is looking good. So let's change the button. Let's stretch it over to up to here. So for us to stretch it over, we can pass it a fluid prop. So pass a fluid, and that should stretch it. You can see it stretches over. So you can also change the color. So you can give it like primary. So here I can come in and do like primary. So that will give it this shade. Okay, so looking good. So how do we now get the values as the user types thing? Okay, so let's see how to get these values. So for us to be able to get the values, we are going to need to have a name property on every input and an on change. So we're going to construct a controlled form here. So let's add names here. So name here would be username. So I'm going to copy this for every other input. So this will be first name, then this will be last name, this will be email, then this will be the password. Okay, so once we have that, now the button, that's okay. So once we have that, now we need to handle the onChange. So basically the onChange will be fired each time a user types something in a form, and then we should be able to control that state so we can know how to validate it and also send it to the backend. Okay, so for us to manage this state, I'm going to go to my containers, which are here. So I'm going to set up a hook here. So this hook is going to be called use form. Yeah, so use form.js. So basically, if you've heard of custom hooks in React, they are just functions that return different values, and in them you can use any other React hook. So it's actually, the concept is actually basic. So here, what you're gonna do is you're gonna export default. So it's gonna be a function. So export default function, and then we are gonna be returning some things. So return. For now, let's return an empty object. So the first thing you're going to need to do, since we called it use form, is control the form, everything on the form. So for us to control the form, we need to know the state of the form. So for us to contain the state of the form, we can set up the initial state. So we can use the use state hook. So we can do form, then we have an updater function. So set form, this will be equal to use state. And then we are going to be starting out as empty. So the form is going to be an empty object at the start. So let's import use state. Okay, so how do we update this? We update it by setting an onChange. So here, I'm going to set up a function that will update the form when UI's user type stuff here. So this one is going to be called onChange. So onChange basically will be a function, and it's going to now be picking some props from here, and then we use those to update the form. One will be the value, of course, of this, and also we are going to base on the name to know which one to set in the form. So here I'm going to be picking the event, and then I'm going to destructure out the value and then the name. So I'm going to get the name and then the value. Okay, so once we have this, now we can go ahead and update the form with the new values onChange. So to do that, you can call setForm. So there's the form updater function. So we call setForm, and what we want to do is pick everything that's already in the form. So here we can spread everything that's already in the form, and then we want to update what the user is changing currently. So what the user will be changing, we'll be passing the name here. We'll be sending the name back up. So here we can get the name and set the key to the new value of that. So we can set the value to be the value. The way this is working is when you're setting a key to a variable itself and you want to use it as a key, you use these square brackets to create a key. So that will create something like username, and then we'll set the value here. Okay, so that should do. It will all make sense in the end. So let's export form. Let's return form and on change. Okay, so now if we go to our index here, when we render the register UI, we can pass in the form. So we can do something like form equals use form, like that, and you see it returns the form and then the on change. So now if you go to our, so we render it with these props. So now if you go to our layout, which is here, we can now destructure this from form. So we can have form, and then from form we can get the on change, and also the form, the current form values. So when it comes to the inputs, now we can set the value of this, the one that we are controlling in the container component. So you can say value equals, this is going to be form, and since we are setting the form value to the username, to the name, this is going to be form.username, or at the start we want to be using an empty string. Okay, so we also want to pass on change. So the on change will be the on change that gets passed in, that controls the state in the container. So let's copy this and also replace it for the other ones. But of course, we remember to change the name. So I'm going to first actually replace everything. We'll time it. So I'm actually going to copy this, then replace everything. Make sure it's all has those props. Okay, so let's change the value. So this is going to be the password. This is going to be the email. So this is going to be the last name. And this is going to be the first name. Okay, so now if we go back to our use form, which is here, not sure where that name came from, and we console log the form and come back, the application can boot up fine, everything is okay. So if I start typing, you can see that we get the form being logged. So since we typed in the username is now updated. If we type in the first name, it is now also added there at the form. We put the last name, it is added. Put the email, it is added. Password, let's see, added. Good. So the simple validation I'm going to do client side is disable this button when any of these fields is empty. I'm going to set up a function, so it's going to be called, actually it's going to be just a value, so I'm going to call it register form valid. So this is going to be a boolean. So now this is going to be true when the form, so we can say form.username.length. Also, so I'm going to have another O. So when we don't have the first name, I'm going to have another one. This is going to be for the last name. We have another one. This is going to be for the, let's see, for the password and email. So password and the one for the email. So when we don't have any of these, we want to disable the button. So we can pass this as a prop here. And now if we go here in the layout, we can also destructure this from what we are sending, and then here set a disabled prop, which should be, can add disabled. So this is going to be register form valid. So now to test this, if we come over here, you can see that this is crashing, and that's because if you think of it, we don't have the first name, last name at the start. So what you can do is actually, instead of doing .username.length, we can first check if you have the username before we do dot length. So here we can do this question mark. So this is actually some new syntax, but Create React app actually uses bubble under the hood, and they take care of compatibility issues. So when you do that, you can see that we don't get the error, and this is showing at the start. So let's actually take a look to see what's happening. So we are saying if it is there, if it is there, if it is there. So once check the reverse if it's not there. So if any of them is not there. So if you come back, you can see that it is disabled. We can add the values. So once we meet the last one, it should go. So you can see that now it gets enabled. If we remove, it gets disabled. So good. So I'm going to be pausing the video here. So in the next one, you're going to be submitting this to the API, and then get the response, and also update our context. Thanks guys for watching. Consider giving the video a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.